So here's a movie script I thought about today. It's not a script, it's just a concept, Somebody could write the script to it and do it in reverse. Don't reveal the whole story until people start to wake up to what's really going on. Do it in reverse, I'm going to go ahead and tell you the end result, but the conclusion that they come to. So think of it this way. Each person has their reality, right? And everybody else around them, and I mean everybody that they're interacting with, is an NPC. And the NPC is actually just playing out what needs to be done in the other person's life at that particular time. The other people, the other NPCs, are in a state of being that person. Okay, so the reflection, not only is the reflection you reap what you sow, but it's also the thing that needs to be cut in your life, turned or whatever, has to play out as a script in front of you. So you're dealing with this other person, and this other person's dealing with you. But in your world, they're NPC. But in their world, you're the NPC. And so it's happening all around you that everybody's their own little, they're looking at a screen, right? They're sitting in a movie theater looking at a screen. And everything that's going on in front of them is like a movie. And you're actually seeing your own script play out in the movie. But, so let's say I'm looking at a screen, I'm sitting in a theater looking at a screen. And the people in the movie are real people, but they're just a projection while you're watching the movie. But they, as you're watching the movie, they go into a theater and they start watching a movie. And the very movie is watching another movie, and you're sitting there watching them, and they're watching themselves in another projection. In other words, it's a fractal. So then the movie that they're watching, which is really their life, they're playing it out, and everybody in their life is an NPC, and you're part of the NPC movie, so you actually see yourself in their movie. And you might just be a blip on the screen, they might be a blip on your screen. And so there's somebody, so let's say there's John and Jane. So John is dealing with Jane. Jane is an NPC, and he looks up at the screen, and there's Jane in the movie. His own movie, and everything that's happening in the movie is a reflection of what is going on in his life. But he looks at Jane. Jane goes into a movie theater, and she looks at the screen, and she actually sees John on the screen for a day or a week or a month or whatever. But John is an NPC, and he's actually looking at himself while he's looking at her, dealing with him. But he knows that's not the real him. It's just a projection. On and on and on. So the reason that I think this actually lines up with reality too is because the person you're dealing with is just a copy or an image in your script, but they're real in their mind because they're playing out a script too, but to you they're NPCs because some of the stuff they do doesn't make sense. And the other person look at you and say you're an NPC because some stuff you do don't make sense. But the reason it works out this way is because your destiny, your calling, an NPC or another person shouldn't be able to affect your destiny or your calling in life. So that other person, if it was a real person, even though they might be an NPC and they might shoot you or they might stab you or they might affect you or you might marry them or whatever, it does affect your life a little bit, but in the long run, it doesn't really affect your destiny because you're an individual person. So that other person might interact with you face to face for a season or for 5 years, 20 years, it might be 40 years and they die and it's a spouse or something. But they have to face off with their creator just like you do, and you're not going to answer for them and they're not going to answer for you. So it's like a projection within a projection within a projection. So everybody's sitting in there in that theater watching themselves on a movie screen. And everybody around you is an NPC image. Although they're real people in their world, you're an NPC to them. Even though when you interact, you're interacting in a way that they need to hear. In other words, they either need to be loved, they need to be disciplined, they need to be corrected, they need to be have a friend, or they need a spouse or whatever. But that person is just an image. In your world, it feels real, right? The NPC experience seems real, but it's not really real. It's just an image. And so in their world, you look like a real person, but you're really an NPC in their world. So everybody's an NPC in the other person's reality, but it feels real. And there has to be continuity, otherwise nothing would make sense. There has to be some kind of continuity, you know. And so the pain and the trouble and the struggle and the teamwork, and let's think about a football. So you've got a football team. Each person's facing off with another football team, but you got a quarterback, you got a defensive lineman, you got an offensive lineman, you got all these different things. But over on the side of the field is the coach and the parents, and everybody's looking at that game, but everybody has their own little perspective. And so they're observing that game playing on the field, and somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose, and somebody's going to be disappointed, somebody's going to be happy. Somebody's going to get hit, somebody's going to fumble, somebody's going to catch the ball, somebody's going to make a goal, somebody's not. And so all the ups and downs in that little scenario are happening, and each person is experiencing it in a different way. And if each person is experiencing that football game in a different way, it might be a dad or a mom or a quarterback or whoever. They're all experiencing the game in a different way. And even if you notice, when you have an accident, the police or the lawyers tell you to write down what happened as soon as you get a chance, because you will forget. You even forget your own experience. You even forget what you went through. So write it down, and that way you won't forget. Because even with your own development, as you age or grow, your own perspective changes. So it's all about projection of images, perspectives, different perspectives. And so everybody that you face off with is like an NPC, and they're in their own world, and you are an NPC to them. And so that's the way it works. And you know it sounds right, because have you ever been working with somebody and the two of you were sitting there, and one person gets along with this other person and the other person doesn't, and it's like you have two different perspectives of the same person, but they're the same person. So it's just a reflection of your past experience or your destiny. And so the reason they're NPCs and just images, because they really can't affect your destiny. If they were real people in your experience, then they could affect your destiny. But they're just a bleep on the screen where they can't affect your destiny. So your experience in this reality with these other people are just people playing in the script, the movie of your life, whether it's a long term or a short term. But if you talk to these people, you can interact with them, and what they're saying makes sense. Now, then you could throw in the script, I would say when you get born again, all the born again people are one, But you can see the hive, the hive is an NPC, and most people are running on a program. Even there's a lot of saved people running on a program. We all have programs that we're overcoming, right? Your culture program, your bloodline program, your prejudices, or whatever you have going on in your program. So you yourself wake up to the fact that you are an NPC. And so there's some director, namely God, directing your life to move you away from NPC to wake up that it's all Christ, It's all the Creator. And so there you go. That's the script. Now you wouldn't reveal all that at the beginning. You would start to show different characters waking up to realize, hey, they've been running on a program. That cat runs on a program. That dog runs on a program. You start to see the cycle repeat. So you say, well, wait a minute. Everybody's running on a program. The animals, the birds, everything's a program. History repeats itself. Nothing new under the sun. So what am I doing here? Why am I here? Because the director of life, God, Jesus, is conform you into the image of Christ, and all these other people that just happen to be in your life for a season, they were just NPCs in your world to wake you up, and you're an NPC in their world to wake him up. And so the NPCs are waking each other up, and they're looking at their own script, but they're just copies and images. And have you ever noticed that you talk to somebody and then you don't see them for a year or 2 years or whatever, and you come back and they don't even understand what you're saying because you haven't had constant communication? They don't even know who you are. They never knew you. They never knew you. Well, back then they knew you, the old version of you, but the new version of you, they don't know you because you're changing. And nobody's going to be with you 24/7. And so the script that you're playing out is different than their script. So it's all that everybody's an NPC in the other person's script. Because you're running on a program, and they're running on a program, and they're just, and there's a growth process moving back to source. So if you wrote the movie for the common man, you could just, instead of saying God, you could say source. And so source is the puppet master, and all the puppets are just NPCs being directed back to source through the interactions. And it goes back to that movie that you can hardly ever, I don't know if you can still find it. It's called The Cube. It was on ABC or NBC or something, and the movie was called The Cube. He said, "Who are you people? What are you people?" And he finally escaped the cube, and he realized he was still in the cube. And so that movie was actually similar to what I'm saying. But everybody's an NPC. It's like you're playing a video game. Your eyes, your hands, your ears, you're driving your car like a video game, and you're interacting with other drivers, but they're on the other side of the country or the other side of the world, and they're playing a video game. Even though you're real, the projection that you're projecting to them is not real. It's a video game. And so they're interacting with you. You see what I'm saying? And think of it that way. If John is in the USA, Jane is in China, and John and Jane are interacting through a computer game, and John runs into her car, it might affect her a little bit, but it's not going to affect her long term. Or John and Jane say, "Let's get married through the computer." Okay. But they're still interacting through an interface. And notice it's interface. So when you're facing off with somebody, it's a spiritual interface, but it's really not real. It's just through a metaverse type thing. That's my point. You could throw the metaverse in, you could throw the Matrix in, you could throw a lot of stuff in there, a lot of ideas and concepts, to get across your point. I got this guy behind me not knowing how to drive, and I got these two in front of me fighting each other in the car, and it's like what in the world? I'm interfacing with two people in front of me fighting, and I got a person behind me tailgating, and it's like I'm in a video game. And that's what it looks like. As you really start to meditate on what you're really in, you start to see it really looks like a video game. And every conversation especially if you've done 1,500 rides with rideshare, you start to realize every conversation is the same, and you've already had the conversation. So as you move back to source, you start to see the NPC game going on, even in yourself. You see some old thoughts that made no sense. They were just programs from your culture or something like that. So each person is moving back to source in this NPC simulation. And to put that in a movie script, I'd like to see that happen, Maybe I'll write it. Maybe it'll get published. Maybe I'll put it maybe I'll hire somebody to write the script or something. I don't know. But that would be interesting to see that go into the theater. And would people even understand it? It would be how the Matrix was hard to understand at first? This will be even deeper than that. You could use Plato's Cave and all that stuff, and the Matrix, and Live, Die, Repeat. You can mix them all together and show that each person is an NPC playing out a storyline, and Source is the puppet master, and they think it's real, but it's not even real, but it feels real to move you back to Source. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Have a go. That's my point.